Good afternoon, and thank you. It's a privilege and it's an honor. Be flashbacks. Good big sana.
Point of order.
Have to point of order. Your point of order. Okay, at this time, we did the invocation. We did the roll call, and then recognize guests and visiting officials, and we have a guest. Again, na cloud and then also number 3, review and adoption of the agenda. So we'll need a motion on the floor. We feel that again agenda ko day kita kada go dali to the motion ko then nila ulit. Then we'll second that. We'll vote on it and move to the next item. Go ahead. Floor recognizes Senator Backbone.
Yeah, no, I just wanted clarification on the old business, on the JAR resolution approving a sand and gravel lease for travel transportation projects. I think CJ's, I thought it was under his natural resources,
Instead of yours. Instead of transportation, it referred back to the
there's a special session infrastructure clarification. Am I correct?
Number, sorry, you gotta join that. Okay, number 3.
Number 3,
second page, number 3. Instead of the transportation committee, it's actually an infrastructure committee.
because it's sand and gravel.
It's not a slash, it's infrastructure / transportation.
Go with it, please. Yeah.
Yeah, I think still come but it's like / transportation. Very good place.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Just
that's
clarification.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So number 3, joint action resolution entitled "Resolution Approving a Sand and Gravel Lease for Tribal Transportation Projects" is referred back to Transportation Committee / Infrastructure Infrastructure Committee. And it's joint committee at you. Okay, any more? Go ahead. Okay, I want to use the mic, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the legislature. I wanted to mention that the JAR that we just discussed has actually been passed. It was passed during the May 24th special session and signed into law by the chairman. I believe that this is therefore incorrect. This resolution is passed. It's no longer in the committee. It's no longer in the business of this branch. It was passed on May 24th of this year. And
In special session.
In special session. A vote of 15 in favor, none opposed, signed by Executive Branch Chairman on June 1st. So, further clarification would show that this is not in committee at all, and it is tribal law. It's a validly approved lease.
Okay, floor recognizes Senator Noddle's Lost Grass.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker Pro Temp and Mr. Secretary, members of the body, honored guests. If I'm not mistaken, is this not Wyola? Wyola was tabled, I believe, or sent to committee. I know that St. Xavier's lease was approved.
Do we have a wild lease that's been introduced?
There was concerns in committee about a couple of the landowners. I don't know if this
Oh, that's right.
JAR describes has the land description of Wyola. I'm sure the committee secretary either has notes to verify or legislative staff should be able to verify. I just wanted to further clarify that. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Not Afraid. I believe you're correct on that. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Floor recognizes Jay Harris.
The joint action resolution we have in our packet references a legal description, Township 5 South, Range 31 East. That would be in the Wyola area. I don't know that the executive changed out the whereas appropriately. If you look at the fifth whereas and down the first page, it references the St. Xavier lease. And not only that, but we've got an April 2012 session heading on that resolution. I think if we went through this proposed lease, we'd see that the intent is that it references the Wyola lease. Even though that one whereas references the St. Xavier mineral tract. Looks like we've got something of a typo with that whereas. I would certainly stand corrected. I'm mistaken. There was a follow-up approval resolution that was introduced prior to the July session for the Wyola gravel pit. So that was referred to committee. I'm mistaken on that point. But for clarification's sake, we did pass the resolution giving final approval to sand and gravel lease on May 24th special session. And that was the St. Xavier lease. The Wyola lease is still before the legislature as old business. And it looks like we've got to make amendments to accurately reflect that it is the Wyola lease and not the St. Xavier lease. Thanks, Senator Not Afraid, for the clarification. I think we figured it out now.
Okay, we can strike the one that's in our packets then. And when we make that motion, we can strike this out and put the appropriate one in there. That's all we need to do.
Fantastic.
And I see the one in the packet.
Because the one in the packet was passed on May 24th in special session and was signed by Chairman Black Eagle on June 1st.
And then the one he's got in the packet. But we do a description. You guys are right.
That was,
I forgot.
that was a good point by Senator Backbone.
Oh, no, that's pretty good. Oh, okay. It's not really introduced.
Yeah, what we're gonna do is, I think one of the, maybe Senator Not Afraid can make that motion clarifying that we're gonna strike this from the agenda, but we'll bring the appropriate one in here, you know, add that to the agenda. That'd be a lot easier, faster, and we can get hand out the bill. Okay, any more clarifications, any more? If not, we're gonna turn over the floor to Senator Not Afraid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. At this time, I move that we accept the agenda with any type of corrections that were addressed this morning. Also, we need to pay special close attention to the item on the agenda that addresses a gravel lease, that we strike that from the agenda and insert the right item that recognizes the Wyola lease for its proposal that is currently in committee.
Need a second? Second by Senator Hugs, question by Senator Backbone. All those in favor, raise your right hand. (13). All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion has passed. 13-0-0.
Point of order.
What's your point?
Only count 12 hands.
Oh, yes. Can you put a short leash on him? We need your vote, Mr. Senator Hooligans. The motion is made by Senator Not Afraid, Lodgegrass, seconded by Bryce Hutch. And then it was questioned by Senator Backbone, and it's for the review and adoption of the agenda. There was a clarification on the third JAR on your second page, that this was, the one that's in our packets has been already passed on May 24th, and then signed by Chairman Black Eagle on June 1st. But the motion is to bring the appropriate joint action resolution that was proposed for Wyola. This is the one in St. X. So that's the motion. So need your vote? Okay, there you go. 1300. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, there was an oversight on my part in regards to new business. The reason it's not an old business and it should be a new business is because it was introduced on the 19th of July, is in regards to the Cloud Peak bill for the police. And it should have been a new business, but it's not, so that's my oversight. The reason it's not an old business because it was never introduced on the floor, but it was introduced by the executive to the body for our review and action. It's never been introduced on the floor, so it should be a new business.
Okay, we never introduced it during the July session.
No,
So it's in committee then.
it's in committee, but
We
it's
use,
never been introduced on the floor, so it's a new business.
okay, so that the motion has to clarify that. I'm not trying to,
I'll make that in the form of a motion to
okay,
add that onto the agenda on new business.
okay, which would be number number 7,
Yes.
okay,
Under,
is it a joint action resolution?
I believe so, again, I don't have that back in front of me right now, but
Secretary Okro is making a clarification. This was proposed by the executive branch in July 19th, but we never adopted it on the floor.
yes, so therefore it's a new business.
So therefore, I believe Rule 13E, but it never was used.
No, it was never brought to the floor,
Okay.
so it's, I introduced Kudum, and it's never been brought onto the agenda. And Bilagala, Paksawang, Galactic. I was looking for an old business.
Need a legal opinion? With Jay, why don't you bring him in and we'll see where we need to go with this.
Jay, Cloud Peak was introduced on the 19th, and it wasn't introduced in the July session. Therefore, it was brought over by the executive office for our action. So therefore, we never put it on the agenda until this session. So therefore, it should be a new business, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking the body to place it on the agenda, because as an oversight on my part, I did not put it on the agenda under new business.
And it's a joint action resolution, right?
It is a joint action resolution, and Senator Okro is correct. It will be under new business. The special session that we had we actually had 2 special sessions between the time it was introduced by the chairman on July 19th and the October quarterly session. Both of those special sessions were for specific purposes that were the agenda for those special sessions. And the approved agenda did not include the Cloud Peak proposal, either the special session in August or the special session, the 2-day special session we had last week. Those were for specific purposes, obviously. So Now, the quarterly session, it is new business not having been read into the record and officially acted upon by the branch. The only action the branch has taken at this point, as you know, the branch officers have referred it to the Natural Resources Committee, and the Natural Resources Committee has begun its review of the proposal. We haven't had any branch action as a whole of the Cloud Peak proposal. So Senator Oldcrow is correct. I'm going to be making copies of the proposed joint action resolution with the chairman's letter of introduction, and I'll distribute those to the senators. So we at least have those we can insert in the packets. And of course, you'll want to make sure that the agenda reflects that it is a new business item this session.
Okay, for the senators, Cloud Peak Energy is in new business, number 7 in joint action resolution. Go ahead.
I make that in the form of a motion, since it's not on there, we have to add it on to the agenda, so I make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, need a second on the floor.
Second.
By Senator Bryce Hooks, and then question by Senator Not Afraid. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. All those opposed? 0. All those abstaining? 0. Motion has passed. For the Cloud Peak Energy, it's a Natural Resources Committee, and the proposed bill will be made copies and will be handed out to the body here by Jay Harris. Okay, that brings us back to review and adoption of the agenda. Any more? Any more clarifications? Okay. Go ahead, Secretary Oldcrow.
I make that in the form of a motion to amend the agenda before it's adopted to move number 4, review and approval of the journal, to the after number 7, before the close of the session.
Okay, there's a second. Second by Senator Backbone. Question by Senator Hooks. All those in favor of move and review and approval of the journals, July 2012 quarterly session, August 29th, 2012 special session, October 1st and 2nd, 2012 special session, to before number 8 close of session. Raise your right hand. Our genie disappeared. Went back to her bottle.
Loss of coin.
We're voting.
Hi.
Raise your right hand. We're voting to Secretary Oldcrow made a motion to move number 4, review and approval of the journal, to before number 8 of close of session. Number 8, close of session. Okay, that's number 13. All those opposed, 0. All those abstaining, 0. Motion has passed. Review and approval of the journal has moved to before number 8 of close of session. Okay, now we go to number 5, receive reports. Legislative branch, Speaker and Secretary of the House. I believe I'll hand this over to Secretary Oldcrow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, honored guests, staff. Again, after the July session, we got pretty busy in regards to conducting business and on the outside, so to speak. We had that council meeting. We've had several special sessions. I'm giving my report verbally, and I'll follow up with a written report to be handed out later before the close of the session. Report staff still as each committee did their reports. January go April dajiga chidiwa boshkatna kachi shiraga kachi wala gichi mairaj kotra bishkasad or quick gichi mairaj kotra na report bish na ya commission got bug Cloud Peak bakalachti sta igrachto galat na tu kalamento bug essa wa что na lawsuit today shown it to the bayakhtegit azab sakhaji sage kaga judge could get action could take lead already na jay shahad there should have been some decisions made but there hasn't been yet by the courts, or they're still reviewing whatever we file and whatever the executive files. We're just kind of going back and forth on that. He signed it, but under protest, we'll see how that goes. But as of yet, we don't know of anything happening on that other than doing daily business as usual. Written report that we have to believe much. I hope.
Okay, the floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of Los Grass.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. The Secretary of the branch does bring a good point today to the floor. I believe it would probably be appropriate, just a recommendation, Mr. Speaker, that we receive a report from our legal counsel that is representing us in tribal court sometime this session to update all of us and bring us up to speed. I would just like to throw that recommendation on the floor. Mr. Secretary, I thank you for a great report.
Thank you for your comment. I believe what Elk River Law Firm goes to.
Yes.
That would be our legal counsel that is representing us in tribal court on those three bills. 10-02, which rescinds 10-04, and then the other one is the bill for the FMA amendments. There was a third one. Oh yeah, and then we've also challenged the executive branch chairman that he's making executive resolutions, which we feel is unconstitutional. Because in the Constitution, it doesn't say anywhere that the executive branch chairman can make resolutions. And he's making resolutions to pass our limited waiver of sovereign immunity. I believe that's correct, Jay. That the executive chairman is making executive resolutions to get 638 contracts, right? That's what that bill is all about. Maybe we need clarification.
Mr. Speaker, to my understanding, certainly special counsel would be the entity to ask, but to my understanding, this legislature did file a writ of quo warranto in the tribal court last year, which is a common law writ. It's available in tribal court under our rules of civil procedure. It basically demands that a person or entity exercising authority justify what the source of authority is. That lawsuit, the legislature came into tribal court as plaintiff, I believe has been dismissed. I don't believe that that is currently before the court. Again, Elk River is going to be best situated to answer that question. The two cases, which have been consolidated into a single case, the two causes of action, I should say, where the chairman is the plaintiff the legislature is the defendant, is involving, as you mentioned, CLB 1002, which sought to repeal Joint Action Resolution 040-05, requiring a tribal resolution for all future self-determination contracts and outside source funding, and CLB 1101, which are a series of amendments to the Fiscal Management Act, which is CLB 07-08. Both of those are subject to injunction in tribal court. The parties have stipulated to most of the facts, and there are joint motions for summary judgment that have been filed in the tribal court. In other words, there isn't going to be a trial to hash out the facts of this case, but it's going to be a review of the questions of law before the court. So summary judgment is the stage that we're at right now. The court hasn't issued an order, obviously. My understanding is that the court is getting very close to doing so, and getting a report from Elk River would be very appropriate sometime during the October quarterly session. Now, with regard to your executive resolutions question, we haven't seen all of the executive resolutions. We've only seen a small number of them. The executive resolutions that we've seen don't seek to waive the Crow tribe's sovereign immunity, but they are tribal resolutions, or the executive branch chairman is seeking to represent them as tribal resolutions, where tribal resolutions are required under federal law for the tribe to enter into contractual relationships with various federal agencies. So, Mr. Speaker, you're right. This branch has asserted and maintained that it violates the doctrine of the separation of powers established in the Constitution for the executive branch chairman to unilaterally, with one signature, commit the entire tribe by, quote, executive resolution to something that requires a tribal resolution. The issue is squarely before the tribal court, or excuse me, was squarely before the tribal court, but as I mentioned, the case was dismissed. I don't know that it's going to be addressed by the tribal court in the current consolidated lawsuits. The executive branch chairman, we don't have, as I mentioned, a clear idea as to how many executive resolutions have been passed through his term or in any terms previous, so it's sort of guesswork on our part, but we believe that there are some federal agencies that will accept executive resolutions. There are some federal agencies that will not, as a tribal resolution for purposes of whatever federal law requirement seeks a tribal resolution in order for the tribe to enter into an agreement with the United States. So it's an ongoing issue. Mr. Speaker, clearly the chairman can introduce resolutions before this branch, and in various instances he would be required to sign them into tribal law or policy. But either way, it requires action by this branch. The resolution-making power of the Crow tribe has been delegated to the legislature under Article 5, Section 2A of the Constitution. So our legal office strongly maintains that it is a violation of the separation of powers for the executive branch, much less the chairman acting alone, to promulgate a so-called executive branch resolution. That issue is in need of redress. Unfortunately, the tribal court does not look like it is an avenue for a redress at this point in time.
Okay, thank you, legal counsel Jay. Okay, we will go ahead. Before I recognize the senator, not afraid.
Go ahead. I guess I just need to hear your comment before I.
Oh, on the
No.
Go ahead. I was just gonna go to the next agenda of the reports. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the body, at this time I'd like to make a motion to defer the Speaker's comments or his report to the legislative body upon his return after he gets well enough to come back. That's just kind of where I'm at.
That's a motion?
Yes, it is.
Okay, yes, need a second. Second by Senator Hooks. Need a question? The motion is to, when the Speaker of the House, Shane, comes back, he will make his report as the Speaker of the House. Is the motion. Need a question? Question by Senator Two Legans. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Sean, one vote, okay. 14-0-0. Okay, we will move to committee reports. The first one would be economic development. The chairman is Senator Covers Up, but he's not here today. The secretary is Senator Hugs. You want to make a report on behalf of economic development? Floor recognizes Senator Knopfler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With due respect to the Secretary of the Committee, I just wanted to mention briefly why Senator Covers Up is not here today. He has a death in family. One of our district members passed away, a member of his own family. If you please could remember him in your prayers. I just wanted to mention that with due respect to the committee secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, thanks for the information. Secretary, Economic Development, Biceps.
All right, Speaker, Secretary, Body, yes. Yeah, lagi we meetings do I do leg on these the JR gitu. So approval of the articles of incorporation for the Zalaga Development Fund and Company as a tribally chartered nonprofit corporation eligible for certification as a Native Community Development Financial Institution. You all you know, they never came over, never had no meetings. Locally, for us, we really never had any meetings, so we could cave.
Okay, thank you, Secretary of Economic Development, Biceps. Okay, we will move to the next committee, Education. Senator Reelbird, the chair in the Education.
Thank you, Pro Temp. Speaker, Secretary, members, visitors. The school meeting new I do that in education with Saja. And just kind of dealing with other business, attending other meetings, graduate and Bawali related in education. Latest meeting made was that they had to deal with truancy. Saja truancy. You all had to about 2 months ago. They making executive education director there too. They while the school superintendent Grabalo go to that Jason Cummins and why the Wallace school is so successful in Amajmu Ksera the whole attendance out and question and hula and even through that same meeting about the dropout rates and why kids aren't in school, and we didn't really come up with a solution. Go to that. We had a lot of ideas on the table. I was willing to work with the executive on that, the education department. We're going reports Karaji Kuche readers going Bahukulated on as far as how many students are have dropped outs. Some students are not even in school today. They found out that even some children haven't been in school their whole life. We just kind of threw ideas around, trying to figure out what would be the best solution for our children as far as being in school. So Kotara Waiola, brought some good ideas. Paget Rajan, Beach, Kotara Jason, and just basically following how to try to get the children back into school. It's kind of simple, and each school is different. Anyway, those are just some of the things that are still out there and are issues. Could I go with him? They're big issues, and they are an education beside you campaign education Haiti. Super education and ideas graduate that's violated. Just flat out no money into the education programs. But anyway, those are some of the things that I still want to try to work on. We kind of last sidetrack age on this, on politics alone, and with the budgets not cloud peak so I think I want to apologize for not getting on top of it like I should. Just wanted to kind of get the business done on the budgets, and with all these other different things that come about, because I always say this, is that education, when it comes to education, it's always at the back burner of everything. We talk about it, but we never do nothing about it. So it's still one of my things I want to do, and hopefully I can accomplish something. So Yuko Cage, if the secretary wants to add anything, I leave the floor open to him. It could not, it took it the big education, NIA that stuff. Jesus, politics and black large match. Yuko Cage, go home.
Okay. No comment from Secretary Backbone. Okay. I get it to get the report, and it's very true that we have to AYP get a the acronym that annual, or is it academic yearly progress? And then add to that academic yearly progress that a lot of the schools on the ProRes, we like that, and Wyola passed that is one of the first there in Plenty Cruz High School. I get OPI is really helping trying to get our students in Plenty Cruz High School to achieve in mathematics, reading. There's, I believe, 3 general areas that they really put an emphasis for them to improve on, and that's why academic yearly progress is important. But Wyola was in it before, but now they're out of it, and that's the first one. And it takes leadership of the principal, leadership of the teachers, and then getting the children to school so that learning is fun for them. And I believe that education important. That we talk about the politics, whatever it is. That 1,066,000. We need a bill to be passed to go to our students in Little Bitcoin College. You and I know that it's not happening, but we need to get that done here in the near future. And our students, we want one of these days they're all going to be in here. They're the ones that are going to be in here, and so we're just laying that foundation for them. Okay, the next committee is enrollment. The chairman is Senator Pat Alden.
Thank you, Mr. Pro Temp, Speaker, Secretary, members, and Yes. In enrollment, it's pretty much back to, I know we did our report at our council meeting. Well, I know committees all gave reports, and I don't think there's been any change since then. But on this issue, we've been trying to tackle the enrollment ordinance, which deals with, I know it deals with a lot of stuff, deals with all the process and whatnot compared to what we've got right now under our old constitution. And that's the biggest thing that we've been trying to get done is that enrollment ordinance. It, like we said, this past couple months, past couple sessions, I could honestly say we've been too much politics and not getting business done. And that we need to get back on track with our committee meetings. And like I said, that goes with my committee too. I need to get back on track, and we need to start focusing on enrollment too. Those are issues that are just, we can't wait on. Or too much politics, we say, but let's get back to business. And because it's almost like past couple sessions that we've been so focused on whether it's the budget or the lease or whatnot, and kind of some of these committees that we have that are kind of getting pushed to the side, that we still need to get rolling on these. And that's my goal still in my enrollment committee, is get that enrollment ordinance finished here by the end of the year. I know we're pretty close to a final draft on that, so that's my report on enrollment.
I guess I can make a few comments on the secretary of the enrollment committee. And we went to 2 years ago. We went to a training, Genom Kushbom. It was very informative. Like right now, we have a lot of crows that are just shy of 1/4. Just that one little drop. That's an issue. And I'm sure every one of us, we have family members that are shy away from them being crow and getting the benefits of per capita. We have a lot of that. So, we can resolve those issues. But it tells us, I believe it was the Shoshone Utes, or Paiutes, or Banoffs. They had a lot of them, in about 60 to 70 years. The way we are going, the rate we are going, because tribal members are marrying outside the tribal membership, the Crow membership, the blood quantum is decreasing all the time. So they figure in about 60 to 70 years, you're going to lose all that blood. And these are statistics that everybody knows. And so they're finding solutions. Every tribe is different of finding solutions. And the reason why I mentioned the Shoshone, I believe it's the Shoshones. One of them, the way they resolved that problem, which doesn't really answer the problem, but is that they made everybody full bloods again. That was one way to solve that. But further down the road, they're still going to run into that problem. But they did it with their general counsel. That's kind of a solution. It's a Band-Aid is what it is. But one of the things that we were taught is never go backwards, because if you go backwards, all the current issues right now, it'll open up a can of worms. There's going to be a lot of problems, a lot more issues. The best thing to do is look at the problem right now today, but move forward. Is what they taught us. One of the things, this is my own opinion, those that are almost a quarter crow, just a drop away. See, you can develop law maybe every 10 years if we get development going good on the Crow Reservation. I believe our budget can handle an increase in enrollment. Every 10 years, okay, let's see, but we gotta develop that law, draft that law, and make a criteria of enrolling those that are almost crow. See, that's just that's my own opinion, actually. You can do something like that. That's to stimulate your thinking. That's what that training did for me, man, we wonder if we can do something, but it's up to the general council. With the Crow tribe, it's gonna be the legislative branch as well as the executive branch come together and passing something like that. Oh, we gotta have a referendum though, or either that or initiative to pass that law. It's gotta be either one of them. So that's just something to think about. Go ahead, Mr. Alden.
Just adding on, Secretary Roman, Senator Goz's comment is that it's too important. Like I said, we have to work together, legislative and executive, to get this done, because it's gonna have to be a referendum, because the Constitution states a quarter Indian blood. So that's some of the problems that we need to write down, and exactly what we need to change the Constitution, as we talked about constitutional convention, and this is one of the biggest ones right here, is quarter Indian blood, because some of those kids just fall right under there and they have nowhere to go. And hopefully we can get together on this one and get something finished. I hope.
When we went, we had a draft. A lot of the other representatives from the other tribes were actually learning from us. We were kind of part of the panel because we already had a law that we already drafted. Not only that, we were already in the leadership positions. The others were employees that attended this enrollment training at that time. So I'll end with that. Okay, the next one is ethics. Like Senator Notafrate said that Senator Covers can't be here because of a death in the family. So the secretary is Senator Coyote Runs. You wanna? Floor recognizes him.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary, and body. We've never had any committee meetings on ethics. We attended one last month, but the people that the chair of the committee didn't show up, so we didn't have that meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Senator Coyote Runs. I know that some of you senators probably and the staff have received comments about the YouTube. I've received some comments that you guys should speak English because a lot of the students that, and some of them, they don't speak Crow. That's why I'm speaking Crow. So anyways, for their benefit, there's been a lot of viewers on this YouTube. And they like the process. They're understanding the process that we have. They're seeing that we're organized. And one of the things that I would like to make a comment on, Senator Alden's, see, these committees is very important because every one of you, I look at you as leaders. Leaders being in development is what I see. Because one of these days, I don't know, you guys might be sitting here as the Secretary of the House or the Speaker of the House. But the committees develop that. That's what the committees develop you. It's developing your leadership. That's the way I always look at it. When you're developing there, you can move up the ladder and the steps. A lot of them, they don't. And when I was the Speaker of the House in 2006, I was also doing the I was doing the chair of the Natural Resources. That's when a lot of development was starting. Man, I was pretty busy. I was always on the go. In 2007, I did that. The Speaker of the House, it was a never-ending job. And not only that, I'll share with you, my mom passed away in 2006. My father passed away in 2007, and I still did a lot of that. It was hard, it was tough, but that helped me. That helped me to understand a lot of what leadership is all about. There's a lot of sacrifice that we have to do on our behalf, and so I just want to share that with you and encourage you. Attend these meetings. Come to the meetings because it's going to sharpen your skills. It's going to develop you to be the kind of leader that I believe you have the potential. Every one of us, we have a potential for that leadership. I like to say something about, some of us have set aside their careers, like Senator Nonafraid of Bighorn. He had a police career, and he set that aside to become a legislator. Lawrence, Senator D. Crane here, set aside a custodial job. It had a lot of benefits, and then he became a senator, a legislator. See, leaders take risks. Leaders, we all have to take risks. That's what this is all about. So I just want to encourage that to you. You need to hear that. We always need to hear things like that from others. But real leaders, they learn to take risks. Okay, we'll go to the Fish, Wildlife, Parks and Recreation. The chair is Senator Coyote Runs.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary, Body. You're trying to come up with a meeting, me and the Secretary, but outside of that, we didn't have any meeting. But outside of that, I tried contacting U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. The people I worked with back 15, 20 years, they agreed to some kind of agreement. But then Billings area biologist called me back about a month and a half ago. You have to get the chairman involved. He said, I know that. But he doesn't want to move forward this kind of agreement. I don't know what the purpose or why he's not moving. I don't know. But I told him we're willing to sit down with anybody. Either we go over there or we come down here to the office and we'll sit down and make some kind of agreement, laws, whatever we want. We could put it in a resolution form in front of the legislative when we have the session. So I said, okay, well, I never did hear back from him since then. Thank you.
Thank you for the report, Senator Coyote Runs. Okay, the following is the gaming. Chairman is Senator Ty Backbone. Senator Backbone, gaming. The secretary is Jeannie Prettypain. She might want to say a few words after Senator Backbone.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and guests. Now, gaming, Saja, we haven't been too active, and I apologize for that. Several attempts were made to the casino to set up a report with Shakopee, along with financial report, whatever we need to know that's going on. And I talked with Jay, and several attempts that were made by both of us to get a report, and we never got a call back or anything, and I'll keep bugging them about that. And just some of the issues on board is gaming ordinance. I know we need to get on the ball on that. I think in 2010 I was the gaming chairman, and we got quite a bit done on the gaming ordinance, so I think we need to pick up on that. Ta-da.
All right, thank you, Senator Backbone, for the report on gaming. Any comments from the secretary? Okay, well, we'll move to Health and Human Services. Chair is Senator Nonafraid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. With reference to issues that are in committee right now, as the committee members are familiar with, and also the Madam Secretary of our committee, Jeannie Prettypain. the issue that is still in committee is a bill for an act titled an act to amend Title 10 of the Crow Law and Order Code to protect against non-Crow and non-Indian felony convicts receiving parental custody of Crow children. I know that when we've met with executive branch representatives, legal counsel, they are indeed we are under the impression they are for the intent of the bill to protect Crow children. However, I know that they do have reservations about some Indian civil rights protections guaranteed to non-members of the tribe. I know that currently we are waiting for alternative language that may address that issue. I know that the committee is anxious to get this on the floor and passed. We certainly want to protect Crow children. We certainly want to empower our laws to empower our parental rights as tribal members. I know that another issue that the executive branch is concerned with, and through legal counsel, is judicial discretion by a tribal court judge. We do understand their concerns. We are planning to meet during session if there's a break, and hopefully we can get the language that meets the concerns of not only the people but also both branches. We're trying to avoid a veto. We're hoping that the language that is proposed on the floor satisfies the concerns of the executive as well as the legislative branch and as well as the people of the Crow Nation. I know that personally, as representing the Ashpajecha district, I know that I do understand the Indian civil rights concerns in accordance to federal law. I do understand that. I know that, however, I don't advocate to grant plenary discretionary authority to a tribal court judge. That is why we were elected to do our job, and one of our jobs is to make law. And if we make that law, and if it's signed into law by the chairman, or if it's a veto override and eventually it becomes law because of a pocket veto or a veto override, that eventually, that if and when a law becomes law, there's no discretion. A tribal court judge is required, is mandated by law to follow the law, not only in accordance with judicial standards, but also the Constitution in its entirety. Now, with that said, I know that it'll be an interesting discussion when we do meet again in committee to finalize the terms of the language, and we do look forward to that discussion. As far as other issues that the committee is looking at, I know that potentially there are other amendments that we will be looking at in the future as far as law being sponsored or a bill being sponsored through the Ashpajecha district in reference to empowering current parental rights that are currently not being upheld in our own tribal court. And I know that history tells us that child in need of care that was passed through this branch had an interesting time finally becoming law, and I know that we may have that fight again soon. I hope it's not a fight. I hope it's a unified effort by both branches of government, both executive and legislative, to empower Crow rights and Crow parental rights in the realm of disciplining our children, in the realm of raising our children in a Crow home, raising our children where the Crow language is empowered. I know currently tribal law doesn't address that, and we're looking to address that at this time, and I'm hoping that the branch membership will support those efforts in the near future. And we look forward to tackling those issues to empower Crow people and Crow parenthood as well. So with that, Mr. Speaker, if there aren't any questions, or if there's anything that the Secretary, Madam Secretary, may want to add, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Not Afraid. Secretary Philippine, floor recognizes.
No report after Leroy's excellent detailed report.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to Infrastructure Chairman, Senator Conrad Stewart.
Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, you know, the issue that we're having right now is the fact that we're not getting any recognition over here. And I know I heard it once or twice already in this branch that, you know, we have to put politics aside and all that matters. And I agree, but it's not necessarily our fault. All these departments have been given gag order not to come over here to speak and even legislate good law for the membership. One particular piece of legislation that by federal mandate that is supposed to be in this branch and handled by the Infrastructure Committee is the water code for the water compact. And by federal mandate, that's supposed to come through this branch. And we had 2 meetings with the water department, and we've asked them to come over. We've invited them to come over. And in fact, I've set up a meeting that time to bring them over here, but they didn't want to. They canceled their meeting and they didn't reschedule. And so these are the areas that need to be resolved in the infrastructure. We've got the wastewater project moving forward as a little bit behind schedule, but that project is moving forward in phases. And so that'll take care of itself. The ball's already rolling on that in that ballpark now. But as you know, and I'm gonna say it again, that the politics is not this branch's fault. We have an open door policy, and we want to schedule these meetings. And being involved in the water settlement case prior to, you know, the late Chairman Van, before he passed away, this infrastructure committee was very much involved. And after that, we just kind of went to the wayside on it. We've been in the dark. This branch has been in the dark, you know, for that fact. And again, by federal mandate, a water code has to be established. And that water code has never been presented to this branch. No time has been set aside for discussion concerning any kind of legislation that's going to be coming to the floor pertaining to this federal mandated water code. And if we don't get that done, that's the teeth of this water compact. That's where the Crow tribe can establish good law in favor of our tribal rights as well as our tribal members. If we don't do anything about it, you know, and I hate to say it, you know, we've got a good committee here. If it doesn't come here in time, I'm kind of afraid that the time they spend on it is going to probably be the same time we're going to have to, you know, sift through this whole water code to make sure that nothing is going to be given up to the state. Nothing's going to be given, none of our rights, no more of our rights are going to be given away. And so then that way we're going to have to pick through this with a fine-tooth comb. had they come over here and worked with us, I think it would have, been hit the ground running kind of situation. But right now, they have yet to come in here, the newly developed water department, the newly developed, or newly, the director of the water department has never been here to, have any discussion concerning any of those areas that have to be done by tribal law and federal mandate. And so, with that, that's where we're at. Mr. Pro Tem Speaker, Secretary, members, we're looking at bringing this water code to the floor, but yet, the chairman has given a lot of these departments a gag order from even coming over here. And if we do get anybody coming in here, they come through the back door. And I want to invite them to come here, but they're kind of afraid. You know, they got bills to pay, and they don't want to be seen in associating with this branch. That's why they're afraid. But we do have law that needs to be established, and water code needs to be established. That's the bottom line. Oh,
Thank you, Senator Backbone. Have any comments? You're the secretary. Okay, I'd like to make a comment on, in the infrastructure about the water code. To emphasize, they should have been working with us from the get-go, from the start. Because I'm sure by the time they bring a water code in here, it's gonna be pretty thick. Something that we're gonna have to go through thoroughly, and just like, you know, we are the branch that really looks out for the, if we're not gonna give away anything to the state of Montana, you know, we're the watchdog. That's our job. Our job is to do the water code besides. And they're taking away, the executive branch is using drafting law when it's our job. And adding to that, the late chairman, when he was here as a natural resources chair, the legislature was always at the table in the negotiations, so we were always up to speed on what was going on. Then we would have bring them in here for meetings, so that everybody would get up to speed and up to the same page. And that's been lacking in these past couple of years, actually, the way I look at it. But if they want to negotiate, we're at the table, and we're not. And that's what's making things difficult. And when they do that, you know, we're doing our job too. It slows that process. So okay, we'll go to the next one is judicial. The chair is Senator Marlon Freight of Bighorn, but he's not here. The secretary is Senator Backbone of Center Lodge.
Thank you, Pro Tem Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, guests. At this time, we never had a committee meeting from the last session to now. I believe we have one item that's going to be presented here during this session that we're going to be have an issue on it. It's the towed vehicles. So that's what we're going to be working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that'll be a joint action resolution and old business, right? Oh, it's a new business, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I see that. It's an act to amend the Crow traffic ordinance to regulate rates and services provided by commercial towing companies. I can add something to that. During the Crow Fair, there was some friends that they were parking at a no park zone. And they were watching the dances at the Arbor, and they said they weren't giving any forewarning over the loudspeaker, and the towing truck came and towed their car away. And it took them about $350 some to get it out. And that's not right, you know. So that is something that we have to look into. And see, we want to welcome other tribes to come to our celebration. And when we do something like that, you know, that word would spread, and that is what they did to us. And that's not right. Because they want to come and spend money, not to Bighorn Towing, they want to come and spend money here. And you know, so that's a comment that I want to make. Okay, Senator Nottaflake of Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. I believe this question is directed to the Secretary of Judicial. I know I'm sounding like a broken record as I put this question forward. I know at the last session I did have a question with reference to, it was either the last session or the session before. I did have a question to the Chief Judge of the Judicial Branch about an appellate court judge. The discussion became heated, if the body recalls, and the speaker, he's not here today, and also the committee chair informally agreed and guaranteed to me, along with the chief judge present, that they would meet in committee to address the issue of why we don't have an appellate court judge at this present time. I believe that issue is important. We need a full functioning court, and that is just my question. Is there a meeting forthcoming? Is my question to the secretary of the committee. Very important that we have an appellate court judge. I can't stress it enough. Ultimately, this is what could happen. Legal counsel's here. If we don't have a full functioning court, we compromise our jurisdiction. If a party takes a case to federal court and says that our court is not full functioning, it could compromise our jurisdiction. Just my thoughts, and also a question, Mr. Speaker. I know with the flavor of the politics in the air, it's surprising to me it's not an issue. I mean, we're busy with various other issues on the table. It is political season. We need a full functioning judicial branch. There are appellate cases that have been in the wings at the judicial branch for about 2 years now. The timelines, again, I mean, it's disturbing. Justice delayed is justice denied. I know both judicial and executive are pointing fingers on whose duty it is. Let's just stop pointing fingers and let's get an appellate court judge appointed. All right, thanks.
Okay, the floor recognizes Senator Bagbone, the Secretary of Judicial Committee.
Thank you, Pro Temp Secretary. Body visitors, that's a good question. I will relay that message to the chairman of the judicial, and we will answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to Natural Resources Committee, Chairman Senator C.J. Stewart.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, and guests. I gave this report during our reporting to the General Counsel, but for the quarterly session's sake, July 19th, 2012, we were given the Secretary and Speaker of the House was given a hand-delivered letter. I think everybody's got this, and the chairman was asking for a special session specifically August 3rd, 2012. And he gave it on the July 19th, 15 days in advance to the special session. But on the 30th of July, we never received the detailed agreement until that day, that Monday. And so that day, when Bill Watt brought it over, Bill Watt and I and Jay Harris, we had a sit down in the, while we were waiting for the Revenue Committee meeting that day. And we were going over, kind of looking over the fact that this detailed agreement should have been in our hands long before the 30th, knowing full well that July 19th, the hand-delivered letter was given to the speaker making a request for special session on the 3rd. And so we got the agreement on 30th, that Friday, we were asked to approve it. And so that day I asked Senator Gozahead, chairman of the Revenue Committee, if I could utilize part of his time in the Revenue Committee because there was going to be revenues, coming to the tribe pertaining to this deal. And he agreed, so we went ahead and went into Natural Resources Committee meeting. After Bill and I spoke, they wanted action taken on the request of special session. So we came to the floor. We discussed the matter, and as you all recall, the ones that were here, motion was made on the floor by Senator Wilson to take the agreement to August or October, second week of session, 17th specifically, and seconded by, I believe it was Senator Hugs. And question was called by Senator Alden. And we had a 13 in favor, 0 no, 0 abstain for that motion. And so, Secretary Okro and I just talked earlier, this has been in committee, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, and members. And we were supposed to have a natural resource meeting this morning. There is some changes that were made, leaning towards some of the recommendations that were given. And Mr. Bill Watt, Executive Legal Counsel, was supposed to come over here at 10, but apparently he was waiting for quorum. I finally got a hold of him just a bit ago at 1:30 and told him, I said, we didn't need quorum. We've been waiting all morning for you. And so he's asking for some time to give an update on the Great Northern Properties and Westmoreland Track 1 today sometime. I don't know if we can do that. I told him I'd get back to him. And he wants to find out if we can go ahead and he wants to present the committee with information pertaining to the changes that were made to the agreement. And so he's going to set that aside specifically, not in the red line version of the whole agreement, but just on a specific paper of the details that were and the areas of the agreement that the changes have been made in. And so that's there and that's forthcoming, but it's entirely up to the body. We're in session now, I told him, and we waited this morning for them to show up at 10, and we postponed our meeting yesterday to today, and nobody showed up from the executive branch concerning this very important issue of the Cloud Peak deal. And I believe we're moving forward on our recommendations that are being made. There's some changes pertaining to the term, to the different agreements, different areas of royalty, and so those are some of the things that are there. And he's going to have the specifics ready whenever we can, ready for him whenever we can call him over. He said he'll be over. He needs 10 minutes in advance. I told him, I said it's up to the body. We're doing committee reports, and if the body wants to move forward on that, we'll go ahead and move forward, and we'll call you over, I told him. So with that, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members, right now we're on the issue of the Cloud Peak deal. And we'd like to move forward as we promised. I believe this body and the Natural Resource Committee has promised that we'll get the budget out of the way, which we did. And we moved forward on the budget, and now we're looking at the Cloud Peak deal. And as you all know, that Westmoreland, they borrowed against the future revenues on the royalties in the amount of $1.9 million. Now, the body and the Natural Resource Committee has to understand that we're gonna have to cover for that amount. And by our approval, there's gonna be a $2.25 million amount that's gonna be given to the tribe. And I believe we're all in agreement to my recommendation on that is that we're looking at presenting that amount towards the per capita to the people. But the sad part about it is that we're gonna have to, it's gonna end up having to cover for the $1.9 million that we already advanced in August, which means that, you know, there's a hole to fill. And 2.25 million in, divvied up 13,000 crows, that's about $282 per individual. So what do we get back from Westmoreland in this quarter versus what we're, if and when we get this approved, so we can send a good per cap to the Crow people for Christmas, that's gonna be in the amount of $282 plus whatever Westmoreland brings in. So, with that being said, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, and members, that's where we're at, and when we have time, and when the Secretary sees fit, if we can bring the executive legal to come in here to speak to the body. I guess they had a chance this morning, but they didn't come in. And so he's got all that information ready to go, and that's where we're at. Oh.
Okay, I believe Secretary Old Crow mentioned to me we were gonna try to have lunch going through the reports and that. I don't know if that would give enough time for them to come over, and you wanna comment on that, Secretary Old Crow?
Well, it's up to the body. After reports, we can go to lunch, or if we want to recess and then go into Natural Resources Committee and meet with Bill. Mr. Speaker?
Go ahead.
Before we go to lunch, I yield my time to Senator Hugs. He's got an update on the Blue Water Petroleum deal.
Okay, floor recognizes Senator Hugs.
All right, thank you, Pro Temp, Secretary, body, guests. Right now, Blue Water Petroleum, they're waiting on a EPA permit. And it's been taking about 5 months. They got they gave them a permit for 30 days for review, and they're waiting on that. And then on the other issue, the water issue, they decided to go with tankers to haul the water in. And they're gonna be purchasing a steamer. The price of the steamer is $1.25 million for the steamer, and they're gonna be constructing that, and it's gonna take about up to 16 weeks before they're gonna actually extract the oil with the steamer. So Fred Taylor, he's the one that informed me that it's gonna be about 16 weeks before actual development's gonna take place. So that's all I wanted to say.
What Senator Hugs was talking about, the Blue Water is there on the western side of the reservation. Some of us went and made a visit. When was that? May, guys, again? Was that May? Because I know it was raining or something. Yeah, I think it was about May or June. We went and visited that. I believe that was in the area, what we call the Willow Creek area, Bird Creek Hill. But that they were, had an oil well there. And then the water, the tankers they're gonna inject the water into the ground and steam it, and that's gonna cost $1.2 million for the steamer. Yeah. And if you got wrinkled clothes, you can come and steam it there at the side. Just kidding. Anyways, so that was his report. Right now, it's at a standstill since when? When did they stop all that? Yeah, about a month ago, I guess, and so, but yeah, they're actually on tribal lands though. They started on a tribal land and then they were going to another one, to a tribal land, but they already have some tribal leases. Well, in a Lotese leases, they're working on that as well too. So anyways, that's his report. And then another thing that we're gonna have to, after we do the reports, we're gonna either recess and ask Bill Watt to come over. I believe was a request from Chairman Senator Stewart of the Natural Resources. So the next item is personnel. The chair is Senator Jeannie Purdupain.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary, and members, guests, and the people that are viewing the online page.
Are you using your microphone? I can't even hear you.
Gotta listen. Okay. Or the webcam viewers. Welcome to the quarterly October 2000 quarterly session. We had our first meeting was mainly an update for us by the former personnel chair Canute Okro. And then we talked about the organization of the legislative and the staff development. And our second meeting, we had an individual submit a contract for services to the legislative branch, and at that time, due to the budget restraints, we couldn't hire. Then we went into the general council meeting, and we gave a report over that, and I think that was about it. And then if Noel, the secretary, has any other information.
We'll recognize Senator Liggins.
Hello, Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, visiting guests. She pretty much laid out everything that we've done in the Personnel Committee. We've never really had any committee action due to the fact that, the financial restraints that the branch has been facing with the executive branch and, lack of space. And, there's only so much little that we can do. But, I just kind of wanted to relay, to feedback on what we revisited on some of our committee meetings that we had. As all of you guys know, none of us have done any traveling, and we've really wanted our staff to attend some trainings, because in order to get updates, you got to go out of this reservation, to really well train your staff. And we really want our staff to be up to date and up to par and up to speed with not only with the state and federal government, but along with other tribes across the country. And, I wanted our staff to create a network mechanism with other tribes, to get the feel that, because we keep our staff here and they're always secluded here, they're not staff with the executive branch. And, as long as we get our staff out there and get them networking with other tribes to make them feel that, I don't want to keep them here all the time. I want them to go out there and, to recognize the staff of the branch, because they are the ones that are in the background doing a lot of the hard work for us. And the last time this branch did go on a retreat was, it's been a while. And, we've talked with the staff in one of the meetings at the beginning of the year that maybe it's time that we do come together and retreat somewhere as a branch and with our staff. And the last time we went as a delegation to Washington, was back in 2007 when you guys went as the first time delegation from this branch of government. And I think it's time and it's due that this branch of government goes to Washington and let them know and remind them that this branch of government does exist, not only the executive and the judicial branches. We are the yes and no authority of the branch of government of the Crow tribe. And, I think it's time that, the branch makes a delegation to Washington to the state representatives and, as well as IHS and the Department of Interior, Department of Justice, that the legislative branch does exist. And back in 2007, the first time that we went, the agencies and entities that we visited, they did not know that we had a new constitution. They didn't even know the Crow tribe had a legislative branch. And so, I think it's time that the branch reminds Washington that we're here. And, and I wanted to get our staff up to speed and upgrade them in, in staff development. Oh.
Okay, thank you. There were good comments, good ideas that Senator Two-Leggins speaking on behalf of our staff, as well as some of the things that we did in the past. We still need to continue that, especially there in DC. Okay, I guess the next one is the revenue chair, which is me, and then I can just get into the surface land. When was that? When was the date that we had that the general council meeting? When was that? We've been going so fast that it's been a blur. Was it September the something? September 8th, God. No, but September 12th, yeah, September 12th. That was a quiz question, and you guys all failed. But know that I've heard some comments about the general council meeting, and listening to the executive branch making their general council meeting, and then we made ours following. I believe they had theirs on the 8th, which was a Saturday, and then we had ours on the 12th. It was good to hear both sides, and they said the legislative branch was more informative. That's the feedback that I got. I don't know, some of you might have got that feedback, but not only that, we had like 350 people. Some of them were out there listening in some of their cars because it was cold. I didn't know if you noticed that or not, but we've had quite a few. And if you really looked at the executive branch, some of the pictures that we saw, I think they had that was their staff members. They said it might be 200 to less than 200. And more came to the legislative branch council meeting. And so the reports that we made, I believe we have to continue to have that general council meeting with the, because there's two sides to every story. That's what I was taught. I can hear one person say this about that person. Sometimes, you know what I'm talking about. But when you listen to the whole story, then you can judge for yourself and make your own opinion about some things. Well, the revenue committee last year, I'm reiterating myself, we had 21 committee meetings for the 2012 budget, but we only had 2 meetings for the 2013 fiscal year budget, which we made a continuing resolution to continue the fiscal year 2012 budget that ended September 30th. So it's continuing for 3 months. And standing together, shows a lot of your that we are well informed as senators, thinking on behalf of the 13,068 Crows. And the proposal that the chairman was trying to negotiate is, we were calling his bluffs. He was bluffing us. And every time he would come in, that's the way he negotiates. Instead of sitting down and let's look at the numbers, he will not show us the numbers. But, regardless that we stood our ground on behalf of 13,068 Crows, and they liked that. I had a lot of feedback that you guys are doing the right thing. it kind of took a while to get there, but we got there, of this continuing resolution of approving it for 3 months up to December 30th, 31st at the stroke of midnight. Because we don't want an over expenditure. If we would have approved the 28 million, he had proposed a 27 million, and then he proposed a $28 million budget of 1,048,000 increase to get it to that 28 million. It's a rubber stamp check, is what he was doing. We can't go for that. I mean, we did that last year, but that was last year. But when we stuck together and we put our foot down together with all the threats, the political threats that we've been hearing, we stood together on behalf of the Crow people and the Crow people with the YouTube, the inline stream. A lot of the Crow people and students, young people, they're looking at it. They're seeing that's what's happening on their behalf by the legislative branch. That's where the checks and balances come in. We are that check and balance. The executive branch, they want to bring something in here, and they just want, the Constitution says that approval or disapproval. I mean, to me, it doesn't spell it out like that. You could have said, we have to do our research. We have every right to ask questions on behalf of our respective constituents from our respective districts. And so you did that. And I want to share something with you. People, I've always emphasized this, people will remember how you voted too. They will see that. I've always emphasized that. Last year, the 5.6 million. You know, that's probably the most political pressure that I felt since I've been a legislator. See, that's why you want to become a leader, because a legislator helps you develop those kind of pressures and make educated and sound decisions. They always say, if you can't take the heat in the kitchen, I say, get out. When you threw your hat in as a legislator, you have to make tough decisions, educated decisions. Before I became a legislator, I've had a little bit of pressure from the local level as a school board member. I've made some tough decisions. The right decision is always the toughest decision to make. The easiest decision is the popular decision that's real easy to make. When you've been a school board member at a local level, half of the people are mad at you, and half the people say, it's far and few in between. They say, thank you for what you're doing. But you know, on this budget, for the 2013 budget, the continuing resolution, I've had a lot of compliments. Thank you for standing our ground on our behalf. And that has never really happened. But I want to share that with you. They've told me that. Not from people from Pryor only, but from other places here on this side of the res. So I want to encourage you. But people don't forget, just like Senator Not Afraid. I always use this, and I always put that in my pocket and said, Jesus Christ will forgive you, but the Crows will never forgive you. In other words, they don't forget. So when you stand your ground on behalf of the 13,000 Crows, they will remember you. That person can make a tough decision. That's the way they look at you. And you because I've been through some things. Go ahead, floor recognizes Senator Coyote Runs.
Thank you, Pro Tem Speaker, Secretary. Yeah, I got a lot of feedback I wanted to share with the senators in here. All those people outside, even some of those people are working for the chair. that they liked it. You guys are men, so you stood your ground, you didn't back down. We like it. That's what we need, leadership like that. He didn't whip, he wanted his way to come over here and run over us. And we didn't do that. And they really liked it about that. And some of those younger people, they understood some of those college kids are taking courses on that, things like that. And they understand what we're going through with the administration. And they were telling me, said, you guys, I told them we're not scientists, lawyers, anything. We're just common people coming together, sticking together to stand our ground to work for the Crow tribe. The whole Crow tribe, not one group. That's what we like to hear. And they really appreciate about that. I hope.
Thank you, that's a good comment. And one of the things that I stood my ground, personally, was when the budget was proposed in June 22nd, when it came on the floor, the day that it was supposed to come on the floor, the executive branch wasn't there to introduce it. So our rule says that we have to make a motion and to second that, and then we can legally adopt that. The separation of powers, then it's in our jurisdiction, then we can start amending. That's one of the reasons why I didn't work on it. I didn't want to work on something that wasn't introduced. So the sponsor wasn't here to introduce it. That's why we went to Rule 13E. The Speaker of the House will send this back to its appropriate committee, and that's what the Speaker Shane did. So just to emphasize that, because I kept saying this, the separation of powers starts when the sponsor reads that proposed legislation, we motion, and then we second that, the separation starts. Then it's in our jurisdiction. Not only that, I want to, applaud you and thank you that we made an amendment. That's a victory for this branch. You can make an amendment. It's the first time that we've made an amendment to a proposed budget. So and then I'm just going to move to the surface land, make it short. We haven't really had any meetings on this. There's been some issues on tribal leases, but we have that 2009 land lease ordinance that hasn't been really followed. We don't have a complete land use board like we drafted, because Prior and who was it, the other one, I think in Reno, they don't have a land use board member on it. So some of the proposed legislation that its law is not being followed. So tribal leases is an area that we need to work on, that we need to, that law is passed, but I believe we have to make some amendments to the tribal lease ordinance to make it even better, because we see some of its pros and cons for we need to amend and make it better. We can fine tune this law because it's law already. So that's yet for Service Land Committee. So we'll move on to transportation. The chair is Senator Backbone of Center Lodge.
Thank you, Pro Temp, Secretary, body, visitors. Transportation, we're waiting for the long-range transportation plan from the last session. We put it back into committee, and for the past 3 months, nobody has come forward from the transportation to look into that, so it's still a committee. And the old business is the gravel and sand, and I believe that's still in committee too until it comes out. And that's my report on the transportation. Thank you.
I'd like to add something there about, they say we can't amend a budget, but we did. That's a victory for this branch of our enumerated power. but also the sand and gravel. We passed an LR and it was used temporarily and it was recognized by BIA. An LR. It was temporarily used until we came into a special session. So legislative resolutions have authority. So I know with that, don't forget that an LR has power. They always say it's for just the in-house here in the legislature. It's not. BIA recognized a legislative resolution. And that's why the transportation, they continued to work on the St. X gravel pit at that time. And there was a lot of political politics that was involved in it, that it was us that was stopping the project. And here, we brought it on the floor and we questioned their director at that time. Who gave you the go-ahead? And I asked that question. I was waiting for that person, and that person couldn't even say anything. You know, he was fumbling with his words and everything, but, you know, it came from his bosses that told him to stop the project, and it wasn't us. But I was just making that clarification and that point. Who stopped the project? And it was the executive branch. But they were saying it was us that was stopping the progress of the gravel. So with that, we'll move to treaty and culture. The chair is Senator covers up, but Secretary Vincent Crocodile, the floor recognizes.
Thank you, Speaker, Secretary. Chairman Coversup. Last report back in September 12th, we had a meeting in the grandstand, and one report put him new. The chairman of treaty. And that was, that was in September the 12th, and they make a report on treaty. That's the only time that we made we don't have any meetings since. So that's, we had that meeting that, well,
Okay, thank you, Senator Krupanar. And the last is the Veterans Affairs Committee. The chairman is Senator Sean Backbone.
Thank you there, Pro Temp Secretary, body, visitors. Went to training in Milwaukee September first week, and it was on regarding housing issues, veterans, homeless issues, and how the tribes on the eastern part of the United States are working with the native vets. And my report is to bring to the table next committee meeting on how we can help the veterans establish a Veterans Affairs for all the veterans of the Crow tribe, so we can have a one-stop shop for health, wellness, housing issues, education issues, GI bills, all of the issues that pertaining to the veterans when they ETS from the military. And any issues for the veterans, please contact me. I'm the veterans chair. People online, on stream. But that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments? Secretary, Senator Coyote runs. Okay, well, that concludes the legislative reports for the 2012 October session. So at this time, do you want to recess the question to recess? Okay, the floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. At this time, I'd like to make a motion for, I motion for an executive session. We do have an issue that is extremely sensitive in nature. I know that the branch membership would be very interested in hearing about this issue. At this time, I moved for executive session. Mr. Speaker.
Okay, there's a motion by Senator Not Afraid for an executive session. Is there a second? Second by Senator Reelberg. Also, need a question? I believe he's having it right now. Is it gonna take long?
Yeah, probably.
So we can have lunch probably afterward.
You want to know about this one?
I believe if it's very, very important, I believe we can. Okay, let's vote on it. Question by Senator Alden. All those in favor of going into executive session, raise your right hand. Okay, raise your right hand if you want to go into executive session. Senator Perdue Payne, Senator Kulegans. We're voting to go into executive session at this time. Senator Backbone? Okay, one, two,
Point of order, Speaker.
what's your point?
I'll have the legal counsel explain.
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Rule 25 provides that this branch may, upon motion duly adopted and presented to the body, go into executive session. With the proviso, the executive session has to be for the purpose of discussing a business item on the adopted agenda, which in the judgment of the branch requires confidentiality or is of a sensitive nature. I don't believe we understand at this point what the item to be discussed in executive session is and whether it's relatable to an item that's on the adopted agenda. Senator Olco just suggested perhaps an alternative would simply be to go into recess for the purpose of discussion off the record, which would be equivalent to going into an executive session. I believe, Mr. Speaker, Rule 25 of our House rules provides that it has to be related to a business item on the adopted agenda when the branch goes into executive session during a legislative session.
I formally withdraw then.
okay. It's gotta go into a business, it's gotta be related on the business item on the adopted agenda. I concur with our legal counsel. So at this time, Senator Not Afraid has withdrawn his motion, so the motion is dead. So we can probably recess and want to go into executive session.
Recess.
Just, okay. Need a motion to recess?
Speaker can call it.
Okay, well, motion to recess at this time. All those in favor say aye. Okay, we're in recess, and I believe it's a request made by Senator Not Afraid to update us on this information at this time. So turn off the in-stream line.